Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. In this powerful Observe Day episode, we shine a light on an often overlooked condition, voice disabilities. Our guest, Eileen Meehan, was once a lifelong choir member and special education teacher whose identity was built around her voice until it began to fail her. Eileen was diagnosed with spasmodic dysphonia and essential tremor, conditions that disrupt the voice and make speech a daily challenge. But what she discovered in her journey wasn't just the science of sound, it was the resilience of the human spirit. Together, we'll explore what happens when something that defines you suddenly disappears. How do you rebuild confidence, identity, and connection when your voice, the instrument of your life, is no longer the same?
Well, it was at first, my voice grew worse slowly over time. At first, people thought that I was crying a lot. And this was when we were wearing masks. And so people couldn't see my face. My husband had serious medical problems. And the people at the hospital thought that I was crying all the time. And that bothered me because I'm actually quite a strong woman. And I really wanted to take good care of my husband. I wanted to hear everything they had to say. I wasn't looking to shut them off by crying. So at that point, we were busy with his health. So it was a few months later that I began to seek information. The last time I sang in choir was a year before my diagnosis. And the last time that I was able to teach school was about 6 months after. I had to figure out who I was because I was no longer a teacher. And I was no longer a singer. And I was no longer the funny one in the room because I was used to being the person who could crack a joke and dispel tension or anxiety. And I couldn't do that anymore because my voice just didn't cooperate. So for a while, I thought that maybe I was being punished for being arrogant about my voice. And then I thought, nah, that does not line up. That does not line up with the God I know. So I realized that this was a challenge and it was my job to define myself again. And I've done that through other art forms and through volunteer work. Those are the things that have helped me.
Oh, Eileen, I'm curious, what was happening the day you realized your voice wasn't the same?
Oh, my husband had just had a very serious cancer surgery. And I realized that the nurses and the doctors talking to me looked at me with such sympathy. And I thought, well, this is, what's this all about? And it was all about thinking that I couldn't handle myself or my emotions. I felt anger then, anger at them, anger at the situation. But mostly I felt like the sand came out from underneath my feet. I was just, I had to find a new way to stand up, and be true to my own values and my own beliefs.
Wow. I'm curious, well, after, the voice, after losing the voice change, yeah.
Yes.
How did that shift affect your work as a teacher and your life in music?
That's, a good question. I worked with very young children, so 5 and 6-year-olds, and we were with children that age. You're working very hard on trying to teach them to read and write. even my children with disabilities had, at some level or another, their own on-ramp to reading and writing. And it was my job to present to them a clear and accurate model of the sounds of English, especially as it relates to the way that things are spelled. And what I found was that I couldn't do that anymore because spasmodic dysphonia, especially in my case, interferes with vowel sounds, A, E, I, O, U. And I had a terribly difficult time teaching kids once my voice changed. I used a microphone and an amplifier, and some of my children would take my amplifier and press it up against their ears because they were trying to listen so carefully to my voice. So the people I worked with were wonderful. My principal was wonderful. There was no pressure whatsoever. I could have stayed in my work, but I found I was so ineffective that it no longer made sense for me. And at that same time, my husband's illness had progressed, and I also was close to my retirement age. And so I left about a year early. From a social standpoint, having a voice disorder can be very alienating. It can be very lonely. I found that it's at a party or at a dinner, where I might be with friends, I would say something and people would talk over me because I hadn't used enough force to get my words across the table. And that was upsetting. It was humbling. It was very humbling. I was very used to being the life of the party, and to have to sit back and just smile while everyone else talked was hard. Since then, I've become a little more, what do I want to say? I care less about what my voice sounds like now. And so I am a little more outgoing, but the fact is my voice does not carry in a room with a lot of music, for instance.
Yeah.
But the people who love me, and they've learned all kinds of things like how to choose a table in a restaurant where I have the best chance of talking. We have a whole routine we go through. So, and I would say though, moving forward, I feel as though it's difficult to make new friends who didn't know me before. I think that I am, in certain social situations, that I am discounted because my voice does not sound strong or young.
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind-the-scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Pleasant to listen to, because it's not. I know that.
One of the things you mentioned while you were responding to an earlier question is you said you got to a point where all the things that defined you, you could not do them anymore, teaching, music, using your voice to
Right.
sing, being in the choir, and you were at a point where you had to redefine yourself. I'd love for you to
Yes.
zoom in and go a little bit deeper on how that journey was like for you, redefining yourself.
Well, one of the things that helped me very much was Dysphonia International, which is the international patient-led organization to educate and support those with voice disorders, and also educate medical professionals on voice disorders. The day I was officially diagnosed, my doctor said, go look them up. You need to hear about them. And the website is amazing. And I have been involved since that day. So one of my jobs for Dysphonia International is podcasting. So I appear as guests occasionally on podcasts, but I also work to get other people with voice disorders who have like a specialty or an interest appearing on podcasts that have to do with their special interest. And we are really hoping to spread the word. What we're hoping for is that no one who has a voice disorder has to feel alone or has to feel that they have made, that they've brought this upon themselves or has to have questions that are unanswered. Our organization exists to help people. That's been a huge help to me in coming to radical acceptance of my new normal. I think that's pretty common. That when we help others, we help ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, we always do. I also have begun working with a literacy program. So I'm not teaching in a school anymore, but I volunteer in a literacy program that provides books to children from birth through age 5, free of charge every month. So that's a very, it's a great mission. It's a great mission. And then I also have had the opportunity to dig more deeply into my spiritual life. And I've also begun to take better care of myself physically where I work out, I train at a gym. So that each of those things did not exist in my previous life. None of those things did. So, and each of those things comes with people I care about and people who care about me.
Yeah.
Life is funny that you can be knocked down hard and then come up and say, well, this is my new me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh. Earlier on, you mentioned that it's not as easy as it was prior to the voice change to make new friends, right?
Yes.
And I'm curious, what are some misconceptions people have about voice disorders or speech challenges from your own experience?
Well, people, it's hard to listen to me. And so that people have to sometimes concentrate hard to hear my words. I had the chance recently to go to Ireland and I had no problems there. And I thought, I think it's because the Irish people were listening intently to my American accent and no one ever had a problem with my voice. I thought that was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that funny? It was great. But people assume over the phone, they assume that I'm quite elderly. Like I said, I've had people assume that I was crying. I've had there's an assumption that I'm just not smart. You sound bad. You must not have much brain power, to be working with.
Wow. Well,
Because
that is that is a misconception. Wow.
Well, but it's the thing that meeting many people with voice disorders, because we do have big symposiums where I get to meet people from all over the US, Canada, and beyond. And there are some people who were maybe already shy. They were already a little unsure of themselves. And then they got a voice disorder. And those, I want to hug them. It's okay that it's going to be okay. But sometimes, it's not. There are people who have lost their marriages due to voice disorders. There are people who lost jobs, who lost entire careers. I was close to retirement. I was fine. But this problem can happen at any age.
Yeah.
And so it is hard for people. It is. The biggest thing about making new friends is that people who are willing to listen to me are already good people. Do you know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
are willing to go that extra mile
Yeah.
to hear, you know? So if someone is willing to listen to me, to lean in and listen, they're already a good person. I can trust them moving
Yeah.
forward, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll tell you what else is a little complicating is that I'm in my mid-60s and many of my age mates have hearing problems, right? They need hearing
Yeah.
aids, maybe, right?
Yeah.
So that's a killer combination. My crummy voice and their crummy hearing. Like I have a few,
Ooh.
yeah, it's bad. It's
Yeah.
bad. But I have a few family members that when we're together, we go in a corner of the room, we lean in, and I speak directly into their ears, and then they
Yeah.
can understand me. So that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's um life is full of challenges, and I have been blessed to really have very few.
Yeah.
And so if this is the place where I am now, so be it.
Yeah.
I will not die of this. This is not a disease. It's a condition.
Yeah.
Um, it's not related to anything else. It's its own thing. Um, it's neurological in that it is part of the neural processing through the basal ganglia in the brain. Um, there is no cure, but there is a treatment. And I am lucky enough to live where I can get access to that treatment easily. And it's Botox injections to the vocal cords.
Oh.
And which it's not pleasant, but it helps. It truly helps. Um, and there are people all over the world who don't have access. And that's another issue that Dysphonia International is trying to kind of shine a light on. The difference in access to care, um, even across the United States, is very, very intermittent. I could almost walk to my clinic where I get my shots done.
Yeah.
Almost walk. Other people in the United States fly 4 and 5 hours
Oh.
to, to go get treatment. So it's not equal. It's nowhere near equal,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I have to say, I don't know what the situation in Nigeria is, but I do have to say that, if any of your listeners know someone with a voice disorder or feel like they might have one themselves, the website dysphonia.org has so much quality information. Um, and we do everything we can to support people.
Oh. Yeah. Thank you so much, Eileen. How can people become better allies for those living with invisible disabilities?
Oh gosh, wisdom. Isn't that just the question? We all have to give each other grace. We all just need to take a big, deep breath and give one another grace. I also have dealt with chronic pain my entire adult life, and that's another invisible, disability. And I've always said that the gift of chronic pain is empathy. It's a gift, I'll take the gifts. And we all just need to take care of one another. We're all travelers on the road, and if leaning in is all it takes to relate to another person, well, then lean in, move over, give some space, do what it takes to honor the dignity of anybody you run into, child or adult, young or old, everybody.
Wow. Thank you so much for that advice. Thank you so much, Eileen, for sharing your story. I'm really glad that you were able to find acceptance and peace with this new version
Yes.
of your voice. And I loved how the part where you said you framed these, you started to see the experience as a source of strength instead of a source of weakness.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so much. You mentioned that
Thank
the
you.
website people can go is dysphonia.org. Is there any
Correct.
other resource you'd love to share?
I will tell you, in terms of reliable information, that's number one. And that there are Facebook groups of people with spasmodic dysphonia and other voice disorders. There are Facebook groups. They, of course, are moderated by the people involved. And so some of them can be very helpful as well. But we absolutely, if someone were to contact dysphonia.org and they wanted one-on-one support from someone in the organization, we will do that. That's something that I do, where I email people and, get the best scientific information to them possible, but also give that sense of you are not alone.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that website. I will add the link in the description so listeners can go directly to the site. Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Alan. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you.
As with you, Wisdom, you be well.
Yeah, I will. That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life's special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.